Hey everyone, Andrew here, and you're listening to the Induction Chamber with my co-host, Gabriel. Say hi, Gabriel.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
So, unfortunately, Steven was busy this week. He's getting ready to move to another city, and he wasn't able to join us today. But in today's episode, we're going to go over tournament results from the ProQuest, what we've been testing, and what we think the meta is going to shape up to be. So, how was your weekend, or how was your last 2 weeks in Flesh and Blood, Gabriel?
Well, I feel like there's definitely not enough time in the day to get all the testing in that I feel like I need. Um, so just been getting games on tabletop as I can. It's been pretty difficult, but I've actually learned a lot. I recently did an interview with a guy from Stockholm, from Sweden, who won a ProQuest with Oldham, and I actually learned a lot from him. So that really helped out. Kind of solidified what some of my thoughts were on some matchups. So I kind of got testing in without getting testing in. I really just needed to know how some matchups went and what someone who actually won a ProQuest with how he did it. So
That's awesome. So, it's pretty safe to say you're taking Oldham to the ProQuest.
yeah, 100%. It's just the deck I'm most familiar with. I mean, I also play Prism, and I know Prism is kind of the boogeyman right now, along with Starvo. But I'm just not. I haven't put into practice with Prism that I have like with Oldham. So I in this game, I just think that the more familiar deck will perform better. I really don't want to go in not knowing all the lines of play, not knowing the matchups. I feel even with Prism being so prevalent in the meta, taking Oldham, even though it's a bad matchup, hopefully I could just dodge them and beat everyone else. So
I mean, I've seen people dodge a whole lot of crazy stuff, right? Like we had an Azalea top 8 that dodged all of the Starvos in their tournament. So, I mean, who's to say it can't happen, right? My week in Flesh and Blood's been kind of crazy. Like I haven't been able to test a lot. I've been testing a couple games with you, right? Every now and then. I think we tested a couple games Saturday with Chain, which if you guys don't want to see my chain play, like I'm absolute garbage at this. But it is what it is. And I've also been testing with my friend Gerardo. We've been testing his Katsu list, which is looking pretty promising. I haven't been too locked in on any list yet. I'm stuck between Briar, Chain, and possibly Dash. Like, I don't know. If I'm taking Dash, I'm not realistically looking at winning a tournament, but I'd be happy enough to top. So, it is what it is. It's not like I'm going to be able to make the Pro Quest or Pro Tour, even if I do qualify for it. So, let's go into looking at some of the tournament results that we've had over this last week. It's pretty interesting, with Starvo being the prominent or prominent deck going on in the meta right now. It's surprisingly not doing as hot as everyone's making it seem to be. So we got some numbers from a Google document here. I'm assuming it's from Power Number 9, I believe is his name, on Twitch. So I think I showed you the document, right, Gabriel?
yeah, I have it pulled up here.
Awesome. So let's go over this, right? Like it's pretty like there's some pretty interesting numbers in here. So take with a grain of salt. This is all community information driven. So this isn't 100% like this is what's going on. But the numbers are looking really interesting. Right now we got Starvo at 109 top 8s with 20 wins. Like what do you think about that, Gabe?
I mean, it is a lot with with the results that we have here. It's not fully updated, but this is what we're going by. Um, the second place is actually it's Viserai with 47. So Starvo has more than double what the second place has, which is interesting. And I know a lot of people are kind of freaking out about that. They hate playing against Starvo and all that. But I do think that with every new set or every new hero that comes out, it's just a thing that everyone wants to play. Everyone wants to play the new thing, the new shiny toy. Um, it is a really good deck, but it does lose to a lot of things. And the more people that are going to show up with Starvo, obviously the probability of them topping is going to be more than the other heroes. I mean, some of these heroes are not being represented at all, and some of them are still making top eights. So I think the results are a little. misleading, but you know.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Like I was telling you, like I personally think this deck's degenerate. Like I don't know, it takes the option of what you can do. Like people will sit here and argue that Briar was a bad, like really degenerate, and I'll agree. Like Briar was bad, but Briar never took options away from you to play the game, where this deck does. Like we did that one play run where I was testing my dash deck, and what you've in 10 turns you've used 9 times, and it just really felt horrible. I block out like 30 something damage, 40 something damage in those 10 turns, and still wasn't enough. So I can understand people's frustrations when they're seeing this and getting upset about it. But like we've had this conversation back and forth, and hopefully the metal adjusts, and like this won't be as big of a deal moving forward as people figure out how to beat it. I'm like, it is what it is. But at 20 wins week 1, assumingly that is 20 wins, like that's pretty impressive. Has an 18% conversion rate, which is pretty cool, and a 35% top 8 rate. And event rate is showing on this is 52.6, which is pretty crazy considering how new the card is, right? Like, how many people do you think actually sat down and tested this before they went to their pro quest and whatnot? Like, it was like a week before the pro quest when this deck broke through. You know what I mean? So that's actually either deck is super easy to play, or the skill level of all Flesh and Blood players are going through the roof. What would you think about that?
I mean, I've played the deck and it is pretty easy to play. I feel like if you played Guardian before, you kind of get a sense of how you should be playing it. You know, what turns you do want to block, what turns you don't want to block. So it is an easier deck to play. Man, it's just weird, like, because I know that there's decks that can beat it. You know, I feel strongly Oldhim beats it. I mean, Ice Lexi beats it. Star was kind of taking the place of what Briar was in the last format, and the answer to Briar was often things like Oldhim and all these ice decks that slow it down. I mean, I'm not sure. I think the metas will sort itself out. Honestly, I'm more scared of Prism than Starvo. Like, I know that's easy to say as an Oldhim player, but just in general, I think Prism is just I think she just has the biggest ceiling to be out of control.
Which is it's crazy that you're saying that, because that was literally going to be the next hero I was going to talk about. Like, I've seen some of the stuff that Prism does. I've talked to a bunch of my friends that have played against Prism. Like earlier, Monarch days and early Tales of Aria, you and I would play a bunch of games all the time. Like, dash into Prism, Prism into Chain, vice versa, whatever the case was that we were playing. And Prism was a strong deck back then if piloted well. So looking at these numbers, man, we're looking at 28 top 8s and 7 wins. Like, that is absolutely insane. A 25% conversion rate, 25% conversion rate, and 9.1 top 8 rate, and with an 18% win rate is pretty good when you're looking at it as a scale of a whole. It's not like we're looking at Starvo right now. This dude's got 20 wins with 109 top 8s. Prism has 28 top 8s and 7 wins. Like, that's pretty crazy. And the fact that people really aren't talking about this kind of blows my mind. Like, it's like this, it really feels like this deck can run away with, like, it just run away with the game, right? I don't know. I've saw some crazy games over this weekend on stream, and the Prism games that they were showing were just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there's games that Prism can just spew out a bunch of auras in one turn, and against the Guardian, which I know every deck is going to have its bad matchups, but when they can't do a single point of damage, it's kind of mind blowing. You know, like I said, I think Starvo's going to sort itself out. I'm not too worried about that deck. I feel like that deck is super like easy to fix. I'm pretty sure everyone's questioning why Oaken Old is not an Oldhim specialization. It literally has Oldhim on the card. Like that's kind of crazy. I think if Starvo didn't have access to Oaken Old, that deck would still be strong and just not as degenerate as it is now.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. It was, as a matter of fact, like when we saw the Philadelphia battle hardened stuff and we saw Starvo, and I was like, what the hell is this? Like, how is he playing? How is he playing Oak and Old? And it wasn't until then I looked down and realized that Oak and Old does not have a specialization on it. So I was like, oh, that's how that's how he's playing it. So
Yeah, and with Everfest coming out, it's really unfortunate to see that I feel like some of the same here, like mostly all of the same heroes that felt, they needed help are they just got even more left behind. I mean, things like Azalea, Bolton, Dash, Dorinthia, Kano, Katsu, like all these decks, they're just not good enough. It's kind of the same top dogs, the Guardians, Prism, the Chains back, and Viscerai kind of emerging from last meta is a deck to be reckoned with, but everyone else is just kind of left in the shadows, just doing nothing, which feels pretty bad.
yeah, like I 100% agree with that. So now that we got like the top dog on the list, let's go ahead and start from the bottom and work our way up. So at 0 wins and 2 top 8s is Azalea. So both these top 8s with Azalea, one happened in Australia with Hayden Dale and all them from like the Arsenal Pass group and the winner of the or second place of the Nationals. So this list seems promising for Azalea, but we got one Viscerai, 2 Starvos, one Azalea, a Viscerai. Oh, that's 2 Viscerais. 3 Viscerais, one Azalea, one Prism, and 3 Starvos. And the winner of that tournament was Viscerai, which is crazy. But it is what it is. I mean, I guess that's better than what Road to Nationals was, right? Like Azalea got one top 8 in the Road to Nationals, and now she's got 2 top 8s in the ProQuest on week 1. So she kind of got some tools to bring her into the game. I like when I first started playing the game, that was the hero I was playing, and I played her for several months. And I don't know, like there were some games that felt winnable and some games that were an uphill battle. But apparently, these guys figured out what Azalea needed to do to win. Like that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just wonder like some of these heroes that get memed on a lot, like I just wonder how much work that the community's actually putting into those heroes with testing and just trying to be creative. I'm not sure. I mean, I haven't played against an Azalea in God knows how long, but yeah, it's definitely
Uh,
interesting. I mean, she's doing better than Kano. That's 0-0. So
Yeah, I mean that's true, right? It's which is so funny, right? Because at the beginning of Everfest, everyone was like, "Oh hell yeah, Kano finally got some tools. Kano's finally gonna be playable." And on week 1, Kano's 0-0, but yet Azalea's got 2 top 8s.
but
So
to be fair,
we'll just have
how
to.
many people do you think are actually playing Kano?
I don't know. Isn't there that one guy that like there's this one dude like he took him to the calling. He bubbled out a top 8 like 2 times I believe, and then he played into 1K and scooped everybody up. So like I feel like North America has like at least one decent Kano, and the fact that he didn't top 8 was kind of crazy. I for the life of me I can't remember his name. I'll look it up after the episode and put it in the notes. But yeah, they're like I was pretty shocked to see that he didn't make top 8 at all, unless he just didn't go into ProQuest this week because of IRL things going on. So maybe we'll see it next week. I don't know. So let's go down this again. So at tying for 3 spots in the top 8 is going to be Dorinthia, Bolton, and Reinar, which is very shocking, like to me, to see a Dorinthia list or Dorinthia topping at all, right? Like that's pretty crazy. I'm assuming most of these lists are axe list, which is kind of cool. At least I know one of them's an axe list, so that's kind of cool. That was also, I want to say, in the Australia top 8. I
The
can't
Dorinthia?
remember. Yeah, the
I
Dorinthia.
think that was the Thailand one though, the one that Dash won.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There you go. I think that was it.
Yeah, they're
So
drinking
we
something different over there because I don't think that would ever fly here.
I mean, look, what was it? I read something earlier in the Discord that said all top 8s aren't equal, or all pro quests aren't equal. So, take that with a grain of salt, right? So Bolton also got some new tools this set, and apparently, he's either high rolling people with saber combo, or people are actually taking these lists and playing them with the axes and Spilt for Blood and doing Bolton things the way he's supposed to be doing. So we're gonna go on to number 4 or number yeah, it's gonna be number 3, which is gonna be Dash. Dash has 4 top 8s and 1 win. She had a win in Thailand and has 4 additional top 8s. This is a deck I hold near and dear to me. This is like my first real competitive deck. I feel like Dash is always a strong pick. I feel like a lot of people got debated into the first week playing Dash into an unknown meta trying to play a control deck, which if anyone has played any card games for a decent amount of time competitively should know that playing a control deck week 1 is almost impossible because you do not know what you're trying to control. So seeing Dash being able to squeak out a win and squeak out a few top cuts is pretty interesting to me. What do you think? What do you think, Gabe?
Yeah, I mean, you're one of the best Dash players I know, so I think you should rep Dash in these pro quests. I think you can easily
No,
get top 8.
trust me, trust me. I know what I said earlier. 100% locking in Briar for Houston, right? And then depending on how I do, I'm going to end up taking Dash to Dallas this Sunday and seeing how I do. I feel fairly confident that I can pilot her to a top 8. I don't think I can pilot her well enough into a dub for the tournament, but I feel fairly confident that I can take the deck to a top 8, which is more than what most people can say for Dash. Like, I don't know, like, I don't mean to talk illy of Dash players, but, if you've read some of the Dash Discord, like, you can see how in love people are with aggro Dash, and that's just a deck that doesn't exist, right? So we'll just have to see from there. Let's see. Coming into the number we did Azalea, Bolton, Rhinar, Levia, Dash. So coming in for number 6, these are both actually tied, is Bravo and Briar, both at 10 top 8s and both have 1 win, which is crazy to see like Bravo doing well. Like I haven't seen any of these lists, and I'm assuming they are doing Keith mechanics, right?
I have no idea. I just
Like
I'm surprised. I'm not surprised. I mean, Bravo is just one of those decks that it does what it does and does it well. So
yeah, like that's just really shocking to me to see people actually piloting Bravo and someone actually winning with it, right? Like that's absolutely insane to me. So what's not insane is seeing a Briar take a win. A lot of people have been dogging on Briar since her errata and losing Plunder Run and Lightning Bolt or Ball Lightning. But I mean, like it's just a strong deck, dude. Like like if you have good fundamentals of Flesh and Blood and you understand how tempo works in this game, Briar's just such a strong deck that can do so many crazy things. So that's not very shocking to me to see that Briar still is a contender coming into this meta.
yeah, I mean, I feel like Briar, just like Chain, is like the cockroach that just won't die. I think it'd be hilarious to get an alt art of Chain as a cockroach.
Dude, bet. So I mean, there's not much to really say about that, right? Briar's not really inventing the wheel here. I'm pretty sure they're just adding some Revels in the Room blood. That's what I did to the deck. You know, it's kind of hard to get off, but you know, when it does Briar things, right? So that's kind of cool. I'm really interested to see what these Bravos are doing moving forward. So, you know, there's that. And now let's move into our number 6 pick, which is oh wow. Oh well, number 6 is Katsu. He's got 12 top 8, which is pretty good. 0 wins, you know, which is a little unfortunate. But, you know, I honestly feel like this is probably one of the stronger decks in the meta and people just are sleeping on. You know, the 100 win line's really strong. Break Tide's really strong. I don't know. I just feel like this is probably going to be one of the sleeper decks moving into week 2 that are going to shock a lot of people and catch them off guard.
I haven't played against a 100 wins line, but I've been hearing rumblings about it, saying that it's really strong, which is funny because when it came out, everyone's saying, "Oh, this card's is bad. Ninja didn't get anything." And I don't know. Like I hear people talking about it that are doing really well with it and saying it's really strong. So just, to reiterate my point, like I always say, don't just say a card is trash unless it's like obviously trash without testing it.
No, I 100% feel that. Like, you know, this has actually been one of the decks that I've been playtesting a lot, and I kind of wanted to, like, I'm not gonna lie, dude, I kind of want to take this deck to the tournament. Gerardo and I have been testing it a lot, and the aggro potential that the deck has, where it's just coming in for 20, 30 damage a turn easily, is insane. So I don't know. I really feel like this is going to be a sleeper deck moving into week 2 of the meta after everything is shipped. Feel like it has a really strong match into Starvo, has a pretty decent match into Prism, and I honestly think probably one of its worst matchups is going to be Oldhim, and we'll see where Oldhim comes up this week, you know what I mean? But even then, like that guy you interviewed, he even had a hard time against the deck. It caught him off guard, right? And which I think is going to be a big surprise factor coming into this week when people see this deck.
Yeah, I mean, I think a well-piloted Katsu deck can compete with the best of them. I mean, I do still think Oldham's kind of an auto loss for the deck. Even if it did catch him off guard, he was still at 11 health. I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like I'm playing against Katsu and I can literally just kind of do whatever I want and it not matter. But just me. But I think Katsu can outrace a lot of things. I mean, Prism, Starvo, even Chain.
Yeah. No, what was it? We've been playtesting the chain matchup into it, and I'm not gonna lie, like it's pretty rough, man. Like he presents these turns where you're stuck with the situation where you're like, okay, am I going to block this, or am I going to block this? If I don't block this, is he going to come in for this ridiculous amount of damage off of even bigger than that, and then potentially fake a block or whatever the case, or fake an attack, whatever the case is, and I'm just going to get stuck throwing a carrion husk at like a 2 attack thing, because if I don't, it's just going to go to waste. Like that actually happened during one of my games testing against the deck, where he took my hand and he ended up attacking me with, at the end of all the chain, he attacked me with a Kodachi that put me at 12, and I had to throw the carrion husk at it because it was going to get blown up at the beginning of the turn. So that was a little bit of my inexperience with chain, but also Katsu just doing some crazy Katsu things. So, that's
Yeah, and
that's pretty interesting.
Katsu can just kind of start doing that right out of the gate, right? Chain kind of has to ramp. Katsu just
Ye-
straight up goes for it, threatens so many draw effects. It's just like I honestly feel sorry for decks that just can't efficiently block like old him because I don't know how they deal with stuff like that. Drawing 2, 3 cards a turn, it's just it's crazy.
Yeah, so in the same bracket we got Oldham. Oldham has 12 top 8s and 2 wins. So one of the winners you actually interviewed, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what do you think how do you think Oldham's faring in this meta? Like what do you, like do you think these 12 top 8s and 2 wins, like, is that, like, justifiable? Do you think it should be a little higher? Do you think it should be a little lower? Like, you mainly play him. Like, how does this make you feel?
It makes me feel okay. I mean, from what I've seen like a lot of those pie charts on how like what heroes are being played at these pro quests, and Oldhim doesn't have like too many people playing it. So like I'm not surprised that the numbers are a little low, but also with the rise in Prism once again, kind of scaring people off of playing Oldhim. I'm still gonna play Oldhim. It's just one of those things. Every deck has a counter. I'm just gonna pray I dodge Prism, and I feel extremely comfortable going into literally every other matchup. I feel like I have at least a 50-50 with everything else. And I think Oldhim is really well positioned to consistently beat Starvo. Things like Winter's Bites and Frostfangs just kind of take the option of him even using his effect. Like he just doesn't have a choice. Yeah, I mean it makes me feel good. It's just I just think Prism is scaring people off of the deck. That's all.
Yeah, I can see that happening, but I mean, I've seen a bunch of old ham into Prism games, and it basically just looks like a non-game, which is never fun for either party, right? Because if let's say you're on the Prism end of the spectrum and you're just stomping them, like it's just it's like you're playing with your food, right? Like it's not
Yeah,
necessarily like
it's pretty disgusting. I mean, to be Prism like as any Guardian, you literally except for like Starvo, because like the dominate and all that stuff. Um, but it's just I think LSS put in the you can concede rule. I think they put that in because they knew this was going to happen. Just call Judge if you're playing against Prism. Just say Judge, I wish to concede, and move on with your day. Go have a bite to eat. It's a long day.
I guess you're right,
I'm
right?
not
Like
like I'm.
that was specifically what they thought when they were like, you know what, dude, we're Guardian players are gonna have a hell of a time playing against Prism. We're gonna go ahead and just add this rule into the game just for them.
I
So
would not be surprised. I mean, it is that bad. Like, yeah,
no,
like you.
I've seen it. Like I haven't experienced, but I've watched you play some of your games on TTS against it, and it's just a
Yeah, you
non-game.
can
It's not
literally
very
like
fun to
you'll
watch.
know like that you've lost like turn one. Like if they put out the auras like turn one, yep, you just call the judge. Judge, I concede, and go eat your chicken strips or something.
The chicken tendies, dude. Hell yeah. All right. So, I mean, we went over to Old Him, and so now let's go to Lexi, which is we heard me talking about this earlier on when Starvo came in. Like when Starvo first broke out, it's like, watch, everyone's going to jump to Lexi because that's going to be the easiest deck to jump to. And this is actually showing, which is pretty funny, right? So Lexi's sitting at 18-1, which 18 top eights and 1 win, which is pretty crazy. Like I think it's crazy because it's fucking Ranger, right? Like Ranger is just a super underwhelming class that has an extremely high skill cap that most people don't put in enough reps for. So seeing like Lexi's actually doing pretty decent this meta is pretty awesome to me. Like, seeing I'm assuming these are all Frost Lexi decks and they just played against Starvo all day in top 8 with them, but that's a healthy thing to see, right? When you're seeing Rangers top, like that's a good place for the meta because it's like literally the worst class in the game,
Yeah, I think people
right?
just have to come to the realization that Lexi is the new Azalea. Like, there's literally no reason to play Azalea. If you want to play Ranger, you're just playing Lexi. Like, you have access to all of Azalea's cards, besides what Red and Ledger,
Yeah,
and all the elemental cards. Like, I mean, just play Lexi.
yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. So now we're gonna move into the cockroach of the format. Your favorite hero, Chain. Chain has been a very dominant deck in Flesh and Blood since its inception. It's lived through multiple bans, literally multiple bans. Seas of Agony, Plunder Run, which is crazy, and still keeps coming back to ruin
Just
everybody.
like a cockroach.
So, yeah, like it's literally like a cockroach with a whopping 33 top eights and 2 wins. The conversion rate's not so high, you know, but people are taking this deck and they're doing work with it, right? Like this is people forgot about it, people wrote it off, and the people that have been playing this deck for a long time just you said, you know what, we're gonna show up and we're gonna clean up house. Like like looking at these numbers where it's saying top eight, I promise you more than half of these top eight was second place because I can't tell you over the last weekend or over this weekend how many finals I saw where it was Starvo versus Chain in the finals. So like this, like I really like the Chain deck. I think it's a very good deck that requires a very high skill cap to play. And coming from Magic, where in Modern I play Dredge a lot, which is basically what Chain's like based off of. Like it's really good to see a deck like this in the format. It keeps a lot of things in check and it keeps a lot of people honest. Like you know what I mean? Like so I don't know. It seems pretty good. I'm pretty sure going into week 2 we're gonna get a lot more conversions into this. I would not be surprised to see chain decks hit around 15 to 20 wins by the end of the ProQuest season, which is pretty good. Like I don't know how like what do you think?
I think Chain is in a very like healthy spot. I don't mind playing against Chain. Like he can do a lot. He's really scary, but he can whiff on a lot of his banishes, and also as when you're playing against Chain, everything is laid out in front of you, right? Like you know exactly what you're facing. So in that sense, I feel like he's a fair deck. He's really strong, but I feel like he's just in a really good place. One thing I'm very surprised about is that people are actually being able to pull off eclipses. I didn't even know that was possible anymore, but apparently it is, and pretty consistently too. So that's it's crazy to me.
Yeah, so like basically from what I'm understanding is if you're going into a fatigue matchup, you're gonna side in your invert existence, you're gonna side in your yellow bounding demigods, you're gonna side in your yellow seeping shadows, and you basically don't play your belittle package to shuffle your deck. So I can see how it would be played. Like you're pitch stacking a lot of cards and you're going in for the end game. It sounds a little crazy because basically what ends up happening is like on Soul Shackle 5, if you've set it up right and you've milled through enough cards, you can go like Soul Shackle 5, keep 2 or 3 cards in the banish zone, take 3 or 4 blood debt, whatever the case is, and then the following turn lead up to that. Hopefully you got a couple Captain's Call, a couple Modern Skies, whatever the case may be, and a couple blues. I mean, it's definitely doable, especially with Spellbound Creepers being able to give you the double action points when you're doing things. So, like if like one example is you're coming with Bounding Demigod, you swing with it without making a Soul Shackle. You can activate Spellbound Creepers to give yourself an extra action playing Modern Skies that gives you a go again and gives your next attack go again. So playing that Modern Skies at instant speed basically gives you 2 action points, which is pretty insane for the deck. So like if you really haven't played, like if you really don't play Chain, I can see how people wouldn't understand the interaction, but like it's not as difficult as it seems, as I get, yeah, basically as it seems. So like it I don't know if Chain's good even after all his bans. I think that's kind of a sign of a healthy meta. um you and I had this conversation Saturday where we were sitting outside arguing, right? Like this fucking Starvo deck's really triggering to me because it leads to non-games, and and then today was like my epiphany, like why it triggered me so much, right? Like we were sitting there talking at work, and it just reminded me, for anyone that's ever played Dragon Ball, right? Gabriel and I have always had this argument: Chain versus, or not Chain, Cell versus Gogeta. which were two cards that or Cell made you discard down to three cards. Gogeta shuffled three cards back into your deck, and then you drew three cards. So my argument's always been that Cell was the lesser of two evils because you could choose what three cards you wanted, and Gogeta was this cancer because you shuffled your deck, you shuffled your hand back into the deck and drew three random cards, and depending on what you drew was the end of the game for you, right? If you didn't draw a block, like you were done. Like there was just nothing you could do. You just instantly lost the game at that point, which is how I feel like Starvo is at the moment with Oakenolts and Cripple Ashes. So, it is what it is. And then let's go ahead and move into, I don't know, these are both kind of tied. Like I don't know how you want to do this. Like Prism's at 28 top eights and 7 wins, which is a pretty good conversion rate. That's literally the highest conversion rate that we have besides Starvo. And then we got Viserai, right? Viserai is sitting at 47 and 5 wins. So I'm not gonna lie, the Viserai seems that's kind of shocking to me. Like I know it won the Australian Nationals, but the guy that piloted that deck is an extremely good player, right? Like that's like Hayden Dale. He's won a calling. He's topped multiple events. He came here to the States, did very well in our callings and whatnot. So I thought maybe like he just did the deck justice and did what it needed to do. But apparently that's not the case, right? Like the deck's getting multiple wins and it's getting multiple top 8, which is pretty insane to me. Like what do you think about this?
I mean, it's not really shocking to me. I think Viserai's come a long way, especially with some of the new cards like Swarming Gloomveil and Reveling Runeblood, and even the one drop auras that make rune chance every turn. I mean, Viserai has a good matchup into the Guardians, Oldhim, Bravo. Um, I'm not sure about Starvo, but and even Prism, Viserai does well into Prism. So it's not too shocking to me. And when Viserai can generate so many rune chants, I feel like a lot of decks like Katsu and things like that that don't really play the null rune and that it really don't have the blues to afford to be pitching for all that arcane damage. Um, I mean, I can see how it's, kind of it's the second best performing deck. So
Yeah, no, really, it really is. So considering coming from, like, I know you weren't playing back then, but during the Arcane Rising set and all that stuff, like it was really cool concept. We're like, oh, dude, we got arcane damage. This is a new form of playing the game, this and that. But even then, Viserai just felt kind of short most of the time. So being able to see some of this stuff now is kind of cool, and seeing how far the deck has come is really neat. Like I said, it's a little shocking to me, but I guess I can understand that people have been putting in the work, and there's been a roadmap on how the deck needs to be played, and people can now easily follow that. And then we got Prism. Like, there's not much to say. We talked about this a little earlier. Prism just being a wild ass deck right now, that it's really creating these damned if you do, damned if you don't situations and just getting there. But that's not to say that the deck is autopilot, right? Like, there is a lot of decision trees that you have to make while playing this deck. Like, would you agree with
oh,
that?
definitely. I think it's one of the hardest decks to play. I mean, if you haven't played it before, it's just you can have some of the most awkward hands. There's just points in the game where you have to decide, do you go for the breaking the halo of illumination into your tone play on the defensive? Do you save it for the offensive? It's there's just so many things to think about. Do you, pitch a yellow to make something with your soul or to make a shield with your last card in soul? You can do that, but what if next turn you don't draw a yellow and you have nothing to pitch for? So all these ores that you have on board, don't have go again, things like that. It's just kind of there's so many things to think about. Even though it's a very, very strong deck, it's not easy to play. Um, but yeah, it's just with all these new auras, it's really scary how it can just high roll literally anything. I mean, with a lot of these prisms are playing Mage Master boots. Some are playing the new helmet, the Halo Reflection or whatever. And Prism can literally put out 3 auras a turn. It's it's very hard to come back from that. I mean, with Spectra breaking your go again, it just stops you in your tracks. Prism is always going to be able to have at least 2 auras on board, and it's hard to deal with for anybody.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I've like I said, dude, I've seen some of the board state that Prism has presented on stream, and they really look like non-games, right? Like where the Prism's sitting at 30 health and the other dude's sitting at 5. But I really feel like this is one of the few decks. It's really hard to say, right? Like obviously, if you put in the work to it, if you put in the work, your results are going to show, right? But Prism is literally one of these decks that you can tell someone that's really put in the work to the deck versus someone that picked up the deck maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and you can see how it is when they're piloting it. You know what I mean? It's pretty insane seeing some of that stuff. It's good to see Prism back in the meta. I don't really think the deck really ever went anywhere, even in the Tales of Aria meta. I just think people were scared of trying to play the deck with Briar going around, but it's good to see the good old girl back in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, in a game where the board state is cleaned up after every turn, the fact that Prism literally has a bunch of 1/1 minions, if not like 3 or 4 1 minions with the new Shimmers of Silver, that just sit there, uh, it's very scary.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. So I mean, we went over all the heroes at top in the Pro Quest and whatnot. So like, how do you feel about the meta? What are your thoughts on the meta?
I mean, I think it's pretty healthy. Like I said, I know Starvo is the boogeyman. I know Prism is the boogeyman, but there is decks that beat it. I mean, Viscerai beats Prism. I feel like Olden beats Starvo. Lexi beats Starvo. Things like that. Reiner beats Prism. I think. I mean, it used to. Not sure now. But I think the meta is going to sort itself out. Unfortunately, I do think that a lot of these other decks, like Levia, Kano, Dorinthia, um, Azalea, Bolton, I just wish that they would have gave them some more love. They really need it. It kind of sucks seeing the same decks at the top for like a year now.
Yeah, I 100. Like I said, in our last episode when we were talking about all this stuff, I think I had said that we're gonna get all these cards, but I don't really think it's gonna be enough to shake up the meta the way people were hoping it would be. It is a supplemental set, so we shouldn't expect too much of a shakeup. Unfortunately, we did get Starvo this set, right? So now Starvo having the biggest card pool, and then having the ability that it has and being able to do the things it can do from behind is unfortunate. But after chilling out, looking at some of the games that the deck has been playing, seeing the ways you can counter it, like I do feel like it's beatable. It's not going to be a fun game, it's not going to be an easy game, but it is winnable, and if you put in the reps against it, you can win. And you're just going to have to accept the fact that there's going to be non-games against the deck, right? Like there's going to be turns where they go crippling crush Oakenold, crippling crush Oakenold. You're just going to have to accept those losses and shrug it off and play your next game as best as you possibly can, right? So like it is what it is.
Yep. I mean, here's to hoping that they errata Okinold to be Oldham only. I think that would fix a lot of problems with the deck, but
Honestly, I just like if they ban pulses, that'd be great. But it's still a little too early to be talking about all that stuff. We'll wait after this next week and see what happens. Like I really feel that we're gonna see a rise in ice hold'em decks with the Frost Fangs and the winter. What is it? Winter's Bite, right? Or Winter's Grasp?
Winter's Bite, yeah. I mean, Winter's Bite, it's a
Yeah,
Frostfang, and now with I'm running Pummels with the Frostfang, so I'm just gonna not let them play the game, just like they want to do
Oh,
to me.
dude, calm down, dude. Why are you giving out the fucking tech, bro? Calm
They
down.
know.
They know. Imagine. So yeah, like I'm pretty sure we're gonna see a rise in Lexis and Oldhams this week, and hopefully, like I said, I'm stuck between playing the three decks that I'm choosing, so it's gonna be between Briar Chain and Dash. Realistically, I'm really locked into Briar and Dash. Hopefully, I can put my money where my mouth is and make the top eight in Dallas with Dash. As for the meta, like, I've been playing Flesh and Blood since Arcane Rising. I've seen some stuff come and go. And like this is kind of a funky meta that we're in. We got a deck that's really prevalent right now, but its conversion rate's really low. It's not winning as much tournaments as like look at it, dude. It has 109 as of right now with what I'm looking at on the spreadsheet. It's 109 top 8 to 21. Like that conversion rate's really low. So it's either the Starvos are playing the Starvos, or they're falling into the Lexis and they're falling into the old hands, right? So either or.
Or the
Like the
chains,
decks,
right?
yeah. Chain can really put in some work to the deck, man. Like if Oldham has just one off turn, Chain can really run away with the game. And even if the Oldham doesn't have an off turn, right? Like if
Oh,
they
you mean
come in with an
Starvo?
Oaken Old, yeah, the Starvo, my bad. If Starvo comes in and hit like they come in with an Oaken Old and or Crippling Crush, they got Carrying Husk, right? They got Grasp of Arcanite, they got Skullcap. So they have multiple. That's right there. That's 10 damage if they're a life behind. Then that's not counting a card from their hand. So right off the rip, they can block 13 damage with one card. That significantly reduces, but that like in a game of inches, right? Like that's all you need is you just need that one turn of breathing room to carry on through your game.
Yeah, if Chain can make it to 4 and 5 Soul Shackles without the Bravo doing anything too crazy, I mean, Chain doesn't really care if you discard his hand, right? He's playing from
Yeah,
his
like
banish anyways.
he just needs one or two blue cards in his hand to continue his turns. So, you know, we'll just have to wait and see what this week brings us. We're going to be playing, it's going to be me, you, and Gerardo, right? We're going to be playing in the Houston Pro Quest, and we're going to go to Dallas afterwards and playing the Dallas Pro Quest back to back. So, hopefully one of us brings back a W or at least a top eight. That way we can validate ourselves through the YouTube community and the Discord community, right? Because we don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I already know I'm gonna face Prism round one.
Oh, dude. 0-1 drop. The 0-1 drop.
Literally, I'm gonna face a Prism back to back, just O2 drop and go to like Six Flags or something.
Do bet. That was literally what Gerardo and I were talking about. He's like, "Hey, does Gabe have his season pass still? That way you can take it and we can just go to Six Flags after we O2 drop." I was like, "Bet."
No, I hope not. I
So,
mean, I feel like I've been putting in the work. I feel very comfortable against pretty much everything, except Prism. But like I said, that's just I'm not even gonna put like energy into that matchup. It is what it is. Hopefully they're bad or something. But
yeah, that's the game. Like I've been playing card games professionally for a very long time now. And when I was playing World of Warcraft, there was this some games like you would play like during the Shaman Paladin meta. Like there's this like you're playing Paladin control in the Shaman aggro. Shaman literally had no chance of winning. It was literally just a non-game to him. And most of the times when I would sit down with my Paladin deck across them and I was playing against the Shaman deck, they would just be like, "Oh yeah, dude, you got the win." So there's this. Sometimes it just happens, right? That's what these triangle metas are supposed to be, right? This beats this beats that, and you just hope you luck out and dodge the matches you need to dodge and sometimes you get lucky and win the matches you aren't supposed to win, right? Like it's card games.
Yeah, and speaking of a triangle
So
meta, I think that a big part of it is that we kind of hold Flesh and Blood to like a high standard with, everyone loves the game, and most card games do have a triangle meta. So, I mean, there's literally 4, 5, 6 decks that are doing well right now. So it's really good. I just think that we're holding it to a high standard. So
yeah, definitely, definitely. That's just literally everyone's passion for this game seeping out through toxicity, right? So but like I said, hopefully this week we're able to put out put out some results and do something. Hopefully the next pod we'll have Steven back and we can talk about some Ultimate Pit Fight. Unfortunately, like I said, he wasn't able to join us this week, but he did play some games with us and scooped us up in some blitz with his Kasai deck. So, that was pretty
yeah, that
neat.
deck is
And
ridiculous.
then yeah, I
I
absolutely
mean,
hate it.
buffing your weapon +6, like,
And then swinging multiple times a turn. I was like, oh, awesome. I thought I was playing the DGen deck playing Ira, but apparently not.
yeah.
So, which is pretty funny. Um, with that, let's move into the next segment. So, Everfest has been out a while. We've been play testing some cards. We picked out some cards that we really liked and some cards that we thought were going to be really performing. So, has your thoughts changed from some of the cards you picked before?
I don't think they've changed. I pretty much picked things like Thunderquake and Macho Grande, like pretty much all the Seismic Stir, all the new Garden cards. I don't think they've changed. I just honestly haven't had the time to test them because that's not what I'm playing for ProQuest. I do have like an Earthlord Bounty build that I'm like working on the side, but until ProQuest is over, I'm not gonna like put too much effort into it, so it's kind of hard to say. If anything, I have more thoughts on cards I don't play, like Shimmers of Silver, the new Aura for Prism. Card's really strong, along with Haze Bending. Um, yeah, those are strong, and things like Revel and Runeblood Incantation, I think, are cards that stand out for me. They're really they're just really good cards, and I hate playing against them.
No, 100%. I feel same way you are really like so far like the one card that the one card that I absolutely love in this set is Bingo. And this card like I really feel like I've been playing it. I've been playing it in Briar, and everything that I've wanted it to do, it's been doing. The only bad, I think the only game that I'm citing him out in now is against Katsu, just because they always have the fucking even bigger than that. So it's just a fucking pain in the ass when I see it.
Yeah, that's
Just like,
another card that
okay,
even bigger than that. That's I saw the card. I didn't really understand its strength. I know Katsu was talking about it like when it was revealed, but seeing it in practice, like it's crazy that one card like that literally it it just improved the deck so much. Like that card is
yeah, absolutely insane. The way it elevated the deck is just like pretty insane. I would not be surprised, a couple weeks down the line after ProQuest has calmed down and everyone's going back to brewing and practicing for the Pro Tour. I would not be surprised to see that deck or see that card in multiple decks moving forward, right? Because it's damage dealt. So, if you're playing against Starvo, whatever the case is, right? I block out 5, 6 damage. You leak in 2. Guess what? I can even bigger than that make my Quicken token, and odds are I'm gonna have something bigger in my deck to grab and set in the arsenal and set up for the next turn with the Quicken token, whatever the case may be. So that I honestly think that's probably gonna be one of the sleeper, not necessarily sleeper cards, but seeing that card, we're gonna see more of that card moving forward, right? So there's that. And I guess we're coming up. What are we sitting at? Like Yeah, we're sitting at almost an hour, which we really didn't think we were going to be able to fill an hour today, but you know, we managed to do it.
I mean, we managed
So,
like 4 hours at work.
yeah, I know, no shit, right? So, for people who wonder what Gabe and I do, we're both mailman, and we deliver mail all day and just sit on the phone and talk about flesh and blood. So, you know, this is this is what it is. So, um, I don't know, man. Like I'm feeling pretty confident about the choices. Like you want to go over like some of your testing process? What do you like what are your testing process going in for this?
I mean, really just kind of testing the matchups that I'm unsure of. I guess playing Oldham. I really needed to test into the Starvo. I got that in. I feel comfortable with it. I mean, Starvo can high roll anyone. It is what it is. But I feel like with the Winter's Bites and Frostfangs, I can kind of mitigate that. I was really trying to get some testing into Prism. Couldn't find a lot of it, but I literally played a couple games and I kind of knew what I needed to know. Like it's just
It's
it's
that
not
bad.
even worth like it is what it is. Um, I mean Azalea's not that. I mean,
Not
yeah, if I
relevant.
run into
Yeah, it's just
Azalea,
not
it
relevant.
is what it is. Bolton, same thing. For those you don't know, like I play all 9 copies of Winter's Bite and all 9 copies of Frostfang. I just think that combo is really good, especially for tempo. Like you're literally it's funny whenever your opponent draws into a hand, right? And they kind of sit up in their chair. They're like, "Oh shit! Like I got the full combo here." They have that smug face on. They're like, "I'm gonna pop off next turn,"
Get all confident. Yeah.
and I'm just like, "Okay, Winter's Bite," and they're like, "Okay," and uh, Frostfang activate Heart of Ice, Frostfang, and now I'm forcing them to discard another hand, so they're playing with the 2 card hand in Arsenal. It's just my favorite thing. It really helps me keep tempo, gets in chip damage, and it buys me time to set up for the late game with my Terra Sunders and Oak and Olds. Um, so there's that. The OG Bravo. I've just learned that playing Sledge into him is necessary. You can't afford to play Winners well. He's just gonna outvalue you. If you do that, it's a 50-50 matchup. It can go either way, but I feel confident I can outplay them. Against Briar can high roll anyone. But again, like I'm just ripping cards from their hand, whether they like it or not, really limiting their turns. And when you're doing that on my turn and I'm drawing back up and they're not, you know, they're already playing with limited cards and then ice reacting just makes them play with one less card. So, I feel comfortable into that. Chain. Chain can be a little scary. Um, but it's not too bad. I feel pretty strongly that you can kind of just fatigue them, make them deck out. You put on pressure early, do it where you can, and once they start getting to 3, 4, 5, and beyond soul shackles, where they're just putting out too much pressure, you kind of just have to hunker down, defend what you can, defend efficiently, and let them kind of burn themselves out. Dash, have a lot of experience in a dash. That's your main.
I bet. Yep. Yep.
I mean, I hate the matchup, but I feel most times it's about 50-50. If not, Dash is going to be a little bit favored. But with our games being so close and me respecting you as a Dash player, I feel confident that if our games are going close and we know exactly what we're going for, I definitely could beat another Dash, like no problem. I don't think they expect the strategy that I bring. So it really throws them off. And before they can even react to it, they're just it's too late. Um,
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I've when well, you remember that whole thing with Matt Rogers burying Dash. I immediately when I saw that, I was like, nah, to the lap, and I played a million Oldham versus Dash games, which is why I fucking absolutely hate playing against Oldham now. But I had to sit there and see it for myself, and it is a against an average Oldham player, it is extremely free, right? When Oldham is doing Bravo things, like it is probably one of the easiest games ever. But you bring something different to the table with your build, and I honestly think that like your build's going to be the future in which Bravo, or not Bravo, but Oldham starts moving forward into. You know what I mean? So like I feel like you're gonna be able to if someone's crazy enough besides me to take Dash to the tournament, then that's I feel like you're gonna be able to put in some work and stuff, and they're not gonna be able
Yeah, I mean, I'm biased. I
to
know
get it.
it's, everyone wants to play these super high attack cards, but I kind of like to take the game a little slower, be more in control. I just love disrupting people's combos, never letting them play what they want to play, how they want to play it. And things like Heart of Ice really throw people off, like clogging up their hand with defense reactions, and now they're having to pitch resources which they otherwise wouldn't have had to. It just makes it super awkward, and they're before they know it, they're taking all this chip damage, get them low, dominate them for the win, and it is what it is. But we'll keep moving on here. Dorinthia, not too worried about her. If you know how to play against her, she's pretty fine. If her weapon has go again, you overblock. If it doesn't, you just take the damage. Kano, I mean, that's that.
Goodness, Kano. I mean, yeah,
That's kind of
I'm like, I'm not even worried about that. That's like a non-factor. It's really hilarious to me that people like, oh man, we got to side in for the Kano matchup. We got to respect the Kano because if the Kano shows up, it's gonna be like that's just like I don't care. You start off at less life to me. I hit harder. You're gonna go ahead and do whatever the hell you're gonna do. Like I don't know. I think I've lost the Kano maybe like 2 times in constructed and in Blitz, that's a different story altogether. But in Constructed, Kano, I don't know. It's going to be a good deck one day, but it's not going to be today.
yeah.
So
Tomorrow's not
that's
looking good
that's
either.
yeah. So that's just where I'm at with it right now.
Yeah,
Is like that's not to say that like that one dude, that one Kano player, that's absolutely insane with him, and that's literally all he plays. Like, yeah, dude, good on you. You're literally the best Kano player in the world, whatever the case may be. Hell yeah. But average Kano players, I don't know. It's like average Dash players, right? Trying to tell me that 9 copies of T-Bone is good
yeah,
and maximum velocity is playable. So
yeah. And I'm already manning Heart of Ice, so I mean,
you're already doing half the work. So
yeah, I literally just activate that, and they do what they're gonna do, and then yeah, I just kill them. Um,
so
Katsu, I've been doing a lot of testing into that. I feel comfortable with it. I mean, Oldham not letting the Kodachis through is really annoying for the deck. I'm sure they're still gonna be able to put a lot of pressure, but I just don't think it's gonna be enough in the end. Um, Levia don't have too much testing there, but I mean, surprisingly, things that intimidate can be a little difficult, but Levia doesn't intimidate um, like Reinar does, so it's not too bad. Lexi, um, I feel like I do exactly what Lexi does, except I can actually block.
yeah,
So, yep, not factor. Oldham, the mirror. I mean, it's gonna be a battle of the winners' wills, I guess. I don't know.
Battle of the Wits.
Just
I don't know. I feel like that's gonna be. I don't know. Like, do you have you had any practice into
no.
that?
I've
Like,
I've literally not played a single Oldham.
yeah, like that's honestly what's scaring me off chain is that I haven't played against chain. Like, I feel like I can pilot the deck well enough into a top 8 position, but if there's another chain in that top 8 that I'm gonna have to play, I've played 0 mirror matches and I'm not going to be able to pull it out. Where Briar and Dash, I've played multiple mirror matches with those, and I feel like I understand both those decks well enough to in the mirror to pilot them correctly, but Chain not so much. So we'll just have to we'll just
Yeah.
see where that goes.
I mean, I know what Oldham wants to do, so I just kind of learn on the fly, I guess. Not too worried about it. Prism, let's just skip over that. Uh,
Non-factor.
yeah, Reinar. Reinar's actually surprisingly can be surprisingly tough. I mean, I tend to pull it out at the end, but Reiner can be scary. Hopefully, just don't see a bunch of those. Starvo, I feel like my deck is pretty much built to beat Starvo. Um, not worried about that. And Viscerai, Really good Viscerize can be scary, with the OTK, but if I play it right, I think I'll be fine. Um, I'm really not. I'm not scared of really any of these decks besides Prism. So yeah, that's
Hell
been
yeah.
my testing pretty much. Just kind of sharing up the sideboard, making sure what matches to bring in like Sledge, or if I want to swap out Heart for Tunic, things like that, and talking to Tobias, the guy I interviewed who won a ProQuest, really solidify a lot of my thoughts. So,
Not sauce. So, last question before we get off here. If you win, what gold foil are you hoping you get?
um, I don't know. I what it's only like what like just normal like equipment, right? Like nothing.
No, I saw a gold cold foil Earthlord bounty,
Yeah,
so
but it
who
wasn't even
knows,
the
right?
full art though. That kind of feels bad.
But like, what if you get a gold Winter's Will, right?
I mean, that would be sick. I guess that would be it if that's possible. But if not, then I mean, uh,
What are the stupid boots you play?
what Ironhide?
Yeah, there goes some gold Ironhide boots.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd be happy with anything that's playable, I guess. Things that people want because I'd probably sell the card to be honest. If I'm not playing full
So
gold foils, and I don't want it.
I feel that. Feel that. I think if it was my choice, I would want either a gold Teklo pistol or what is it? What's the stupid Rhinar chess piece that you roll dice and you gain that much mana? Like just because it's one of the worst cards you could get, I would love to have it and be like, yeah, dude, this is the card. So just to be trolling on people. So with that said, like Gabe, want to plug your handles real quick? Tell us where we can find you.
Oh yeah, you could just find me on YouTube. You could just search Wiji, Wiji, like Flesh and Blood. Find myself there. Really have been trying to improve the channel, like working on editing gameplay videos, things like that. And I did an interview, like I've talked about several times throughout this, with someone who won a ProQuest. I think you should listen to it, check it out. It's very insightful. Yeah.
Awesome. If you guys want to find me, you can find me in the Discord always on in the Dash channel talking bad to people. Find me on YouTube at Kodachi for one. Uh, I really put stuff up there sporadically. I'm after the ProQuest. I'm going to be putting up my Dash list, and some stuff that I've been working on behind, and going from there. We're gonna come back. Hopefully, we'll be back before the end of. Well, we hopefully we'll be back before the 3rd in March to talk about our ProQuest experience, stuff like that. I really want to thank everybody that's listened thus far, um, and given us feedbacks on the podcast and whatnot. It means a lot to all of us. And till next time, bye.
See ya.